Alright, there is so much going on in scene 3. What I've done here is I've just numbered, and I'll point out with my mouse as well, numbered the lines and the annotations that belong with it, so 1 and 1, 2 and 2, etc. So just keep up, and if you don't understand, it's okay, I'll explain on Wednesday. Now we finally hear Coral speak, and it is a soliloquy, similar to a monologue, except that a soliloquy, correct me if I'm wrong, is not heard by other characters. Okay, so a soliloquy is just between the character and the audience. Now we start with the stage directions alone. The soliloquy itself is contrasted to the faster, varied dialogue of previous scenes and Coral's complete silence. Now, this stage direction alone highlights her isolation and her inability to move away from her own grief and discover her identity again. Okay, she is alone, she is isolated. Now, we have Coral talking about the play that she's just seen, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and she's talking about when that woman woke up and saw that donkey at her feet, I thought my heart would break. She's talking about when Titania discovers Bottom, who has been transformed into a donkey, and she falls in love with him because she has the love juice in her eyes. Now, this is a paradoxical response because that is supposed to be a humorous scene, but she's saying that her heart would break. It suggests something of her mental capabilities at the moment and her unstable grip on reality. Now, it says, to wake up and find something you want so badly. Now, to wake up, this is a motif. This motif of waking up from dreams especially, I suppose wake up could be a metaphor for a revelation or an epiphany of understanding something. This is a motif, okay, of death and sleep and awakening. Now, death and sleep are also motifs throughout, so keep an eye out for them. To find something you want so badly. Now, this relates to her longing for her son. Waking up and wanting something you want so badly. Her son has died, and she is having trouble letting go of that. It is a barrier to her discovery. She woke up again and saw her husband and loved him. Now, that is foreshadowing her reconciliation with Roy. At the moment, Roy is having a lot of difficulties dealing with Coral because I don't think he's moved on from the grief, but I think he's dealing with it better than Coral. Okay, eventually they do reconcile with each other. Now, it says, that boy in that blue light, the shadows on his face and neck were like bruises. Coral, more than any other character, has recognized that Tom is sick. He looked so sick, yet so wonderful, so white, so cold and burning. Now, Coral has the tendency to discover through others, almost vicariously. She is in a way justifying her grief because of what she knows about Tom's illness. This adds to the denial phase of her discovery. So she is using her knowledge of Tom's illness as justification as to why she is feeling sad. Because Roy wants her to get over her son's death. Okay? He wants her to move on. He wants her to discover herself again, or rediscover herself again. So she's using other things to justify her grief. Now we have so cold and burning, which is, our neck were like bruises, we have a simile. So cold and burning is an oxymoron because you can't sort of have something that's cold and burning. What angel wakes me from my flowery bed? Now, that is repeated again. So what angel wakes me from my flowery bed? What angel wakes me from my flowery bed? We have repetition here, an allusion. That is a quote from Midsummer Night's Dream. Now, we have parallel characterization here again between Coral and Titania in Midsummer Night's Dream. Now, Titania says this line in A Midsummer Night's Dream, what angel wakes me from my flowery bed? And again, the motif of waking up. Now, Coral equals Titania because Titania says this, Titania wants to keep the human boy, but Oberon refuses, like Coral's grief for her son. Coral wants to keep her grief for her son, but Roy refuses. Secondly, Titania's false need or longing reflects Coral's inability to stop grieving her son. We also have a rhetorical question. Is it better for them to die like that, looking like gods? We have a rhetorical question here. We have the motif of death again, and we have a biblical allusion, which suggests Coral's inability to move away from thoughts about how her son died. We assume tragically and in really brutal circumstances because he died during the war. Now, Roy, I thought I told you to wait in the car. Coral, I was hot, just walking. Now that term walking and the repetition of it down here, I was just walking, is a really important motif. What is she walking towards? Maybe she's walking away from something. Maybe she's doing both. What is she walking away from? What is she walking towards? It suggests the process of discovery. And she repeats that line at the end of the play. It's a really important part. Roy's indifference is a barrier to her discovery, and it also suggests the importance of relationships and how relationships can facilitate discovery. Okay? Alright, that was a pretty in-depth annotation, considering that the scene was only a page long. So I hope that you have that all there with you. If you don't, just leave a little note and I'll come back to it on Wednesday.